Hello everyone, before we get the episode started, I'd like to tell you two new things. I've changed my audio, so that it sounds better, cleaner, but it also sounds like my voice is pitch shifted and a little deeper, but it isn't, it's just cleaner audio. Also, I changed my lighting in this video that you will notice that. If it's any darker or lighter, or you just don't like it, tell me what to do with it. Just tell me that in the comments. And with all that in mind, let's get started on the video. Hi everyone, welcome back to the second episode of Eric's Guide to Metal. Before we start, I got new merch. Just this shirt. It's just a Motorhead shirt. I liked it, so I picked it up. That's my newest piece of merch. I've had it for like a week or two, but it's my newest piece. So, you know. Today we're going to be covering traditional and what other people call heavy or classic metal, whatever you want to call it. It's traditional, that's what we're going to call it, and that's what it's going to be. We're going to go back to where it kind of all started, and to bands and stuff like that that aren't even considered metal anymore. So we're going to start with Black Sabbath. A lot of people might say, actually, there was a band called Witchfinder General in 1876 that used distortion guitars, and they were, inspiring the sport for more hunt for witches, and people just really liked doing that, so that was the thing back then, you know, with their distortion guitars in the 1800s. No. We're going with Black Sabbath, though Witchfinder General is pretty great. I was gonna cover with earlier stuff like Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, Def Leppard, all that kind of stuff, but that's like such popular classic rock kind of, hard rock kind of stuff, that you probably already heard the hits like 500 times or so I figured there's no reason to even bother, it's just pointless. I will give you a warning though, you should generally speaking enjoy classic or hard rock if you want to get into traditional metal and metal in general. Not only that, but you really have to keep an open mind when you're experimenting like this. And this is kind of a disclaimer for the whole series, is that overall, you need to stay open-minded. I'm not saying blindly accept everything, I'm saying give something a couple listens, and maybe you'll get into it. When we get to the death metal area, I can actually explain why I love death metal to this day, and it was through constant attempts in trying to enjoy it. And that doesn't mean I forced myself to, it's just I got used to it. So, keep an open mind, and hopefully you'll enjoy something here. So before we get to Black Sabbath, I'm going to mention some other bands that some people might not even consider metal anymore. They're honestly in the classic hard rock kind of area now. Starting with UFO. UFO is a really solid band that I would consider classic hard rock now. But nonetheless, it's a pretty solid band. I would recommend starting with Lights Out if you just want something good, because UFO isn't mentioned as much as the other bands I mentioned before. For more classic and heavy hard rock, I recommend Deep Purple. I recommend their albums Burn and In Rock. Very cool. A band that has a huge influence on a band like Ghost BC, who's pretty big right now. Their first album's actually good. Like, everybody hates everything they make for some reason now, because they're popular, I guess. Their big influence was Blue Oyster Cult, and their self-titled album is, hands down, one of my favorites from the 70s. It is just interesting. It is very interesting. I like Tyranny and Mutation and Secret Treaties as well, but nothing really beats their self-titled album. It has like really dream-like riffs and drum patterns, and all of their lyrics are really vague and strange. Like, she's as beautiful as a foot. It's just bizarre, and you have to bring your own interpretation to that. And I really like that, but a lot of people might hate it. Also, another band, Scorpions, is a must. Blackout is just an incredible album. As for Sabbath, you really only need to listen to a few of their albums. As for the Oz era, all you really need is Paranoid, Master of Reality, Volume 4, and Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. Those are all you really need. You of course can listen to more. When I say listen to this album, and this album, you can always listen to more. And in fact, it's better if you listen to more, because that means you have heard more. But those are the 4 musts, I would say. A lot of Ozzy era is a little bit more low tempo and relaxing, and it has a lot more of blues influence. And if you like the tempo compared to other albums and bands I'm going to show to you, when I get around to it, I will be covering doom metal. And if you really like this tempo, the slow rhythm and the long riffs and stuff like that, I'll get to doom metal, and you might like doom metal more. With doom metal in mind, I of course have to refrain back to the point of this series, getting you to the point of appreciating and understanding really extreme metal like black metal or death metal. But that doesn't mean you have to be a death or black metaler. What I'm saying here is you can go anywhere you want with this series. I'm not saying you have to like blank 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 to be a cool metalhead. No. You just do your own thing. That's just great. Doom metal isn't exactly on the exact route for death or black metal, because it isn't straight to that extreme. I know a lot of people who just like doom metal, and it's just because they already really liked rock music and stuff like that, so they got super into doom metal. And that's totally great. But so doom metal is going to be a little branch off instead of the straight up path that we're going to be taking. So I'm going to be covering that long path to black and death metal, and then I'm going to be doing subgenres over and over again. Ozzy era Sabbath is like really low tempo and really relaxed, and it's like a fucking trip, man. Like, it's so good. This is a Starbucks bottle. Aside from early Sabbath, also known as Ozzy era Sabbath, the other thing you should listen to is Ronnie James Dio in Black Sabbath, of course, and their album, Heaven and Hell. This album's like really old. I bought it in my record store. It's probably like actually from the 80s, but it looks like a piece of shit. The artwork is some of my favorite though, but it is hands down one of the greatest albums just ever made. It's probably my favorite album of that year, only rivaling something else that I'll probably mention. With Ronnie James Dio, I recommend a lot of his solo work. I would love to say I'd recommend all of it, because I think he's a great musician and I think he's really incredible. But sadly, I can't really say the same for like his albums. I can't say that all of his albums are great. I just don't agree with that. So I would say check out his first 2 albums, Holy Diver and The Last in Line. Those are great albums, but they still have like a few songs that are just not great. That's just how I feel though. Check them out, they're really good. Just wanted to make sure I didn't come off as too negative on Dio here. I do love most of his music, but like all brilliant musicians, they have their low points. Ronnie truly is a metal god, and sadly he passed away in 2010 of stomach cancer. And if you like his music, it would be great if you donated to the Ronnie James Dio Stand Up and Shout Cancer Fund. Link is in the description. And with Ronnie James Dio, I can't forget where he started, Rainbow. Check out their album Rising. It's still great. It's from 1976 and it's still hard and great and just really, really something special. With 1976 in mind, let's talk about Judas Priest's Sad Wings of Destiny, which is probably one of their best albums. Some really amazing headbangers in here and really great riffs like The Ripper, but we also have songs like Dreamer Deceiver, which are just excellently executed and very, very emotional pieces. Judas Priest as a whole, you should probably only listen to their following albums because they have a lot of them. British Steel, except for United and Red, White, and Blue, those songs suck shit. But don't let me change your opinion. Screaming for Vengeance, Painkiller, those are my favorites. Painkiller being a special one for mine. And I think that Judas Priest is probably one of the most consistently good bands ever. The worst that their band gets are merely mediocre, which are albums like Ram It Down, Demolition, and Point of Entry. So they're not great, so just stay away from them, but they're fine. Like, the worst they get are a C-. They are like the Martin Scorsese of music.
He makes the best films! He makes the best films! If I ever meet him, I'm gonna grab his neck and just shake him and say thank you for making such excellent movies!
Judas Priest is so consistently good, and I love them so much, that my Discord server name is also a reference to their song from British Steel. Not to mention, one of the roles on my server, Grinder, Looking for Meat, which is obviously grindcore, is a reference to another song on British Steel. British Steel is a great album. A band that's very similar to Judas Priest, if you like what you have heard from them, is Iron Maiden. This is the band. The fucking band. How is Iron Maiden's name not permanently changed to Iron fucking Maiden? I mean, to me, Iron Maiden is a perfect band, and the definition of a perfect band is that when they're at their best, everything is perfect. So when they have their best albums out, they are perfect in every way. Great vocals, drums, and guitars. And Steve Harris is one of the most excellent bassists just ever, because he is always there in their music. Seriously, when I say go listen to these albums that I'm going to mention eventually, I don't mean listen, I mean hear. But like, seriously, really listen to all the instruments and try and catch that bass line, because it's always different from the guitar. That's a consistent problem within like more extreme forms of metal, is that the bass just kind of goes along with the guitar, and you can't even hear it. It's just there, sort of. But you can't even hear it. It just goes along with the main riffs. It's not great. Don't let me overhype Iron Maiden for you. Of course I will mention the most necessary albums, and if you like them, I will give you a few others. There is the big three: Number of the Beast, Peace of Mind, and Power Slave. This is the trilogy of great. Again, don't let me overhype it for you. Just listen to them yourself. These albums are a must-listen. Power Slave, in my opinion, is the best one, but it's been a while since I listened to all three in consistent order, but I think it's the best of the three, given my memory of it. Brave New World is one of my favorite albums, and I fucking love it. Now it's story time with Daddy Eric. After Somewhere in Time, I really didn't get this band. They started using like keyboards, and their newer tracks were like progressive metal and weird, and I just didn't really give a shit. Bruce Dickinson and Adrian Smith both left the band after a while, and I just wanted it to be like the old days. In fact, that's why this album's great. When they came back, it was kind of just like the original three great albums. Obviously, it's not very similar, but it's solid, and it's really good. It's just like the old days. In fact, this album is the reason why I bought a record player for this vinyl specifically, because it was a vinyl that was limited edition at the time for being re-released in the Americas. So, I love Brave New World. Dream of Mirrors is my shit. The other two albums that I really like are the first two albums, and the reason why these are very interesting albums is that it mixes punk with like heavy metal. And of course those were the ones that they were at the time, so it's obviously very different from what punk is now, or what punk was in the 90s or whatever, I don't know. But it was what it was at the time, and they mixed, and it was really interesting. It's like metalcore, but good. because they aren't showing up. Like, we don't know what they're doing. So, very interesting albums. I like them a lot. Speaking of albums that came out in the early 80s, Ozzy Osbourne's first 2 solo albums are fucking god tier. The Blizzard of Oz is where you hear almost every classic you've heard from Ozzy Osbourne to this day, and his his guitarist Randy Rhoads is just amazing. After Bark at the Moon, I think his work is subpar at best. Bark at the Moon is pretty good, but it's not a repeat album. It is very good on first listening, and then when you keep hearing that album, you start to pick out things about it. So it's not really a kind of an album that you throw on like a playlist or something like that. No. Diamond Head is deathly important. They are the writers of the classic Am I Evil? And yes, it's not a Metallica song. It's from Diamond Head. I've mentioned Am I Evil before to people, and they're like, oh, I really like that song by Metallica. Makes me rip my fucking hair out every single time. They are also the primary influence of Daddy Thrash Dave Mustaine, who basically made Metallica what they are now. But I'll cover that in the thrash video. Listen to the first 3 albums of Diamond Head if you really want to. It's not that important, but it's good stuff. It's good. And for Diamonds, it actually doesn't get much better than King Diamond. I probably like King Diamond more than Diamond Head. He's a great musician and a really excellent storyteller, weirdly enough. Check out Merciful Fate as well, because he was in that band before he made King Diamond. As for King Diamond's albums, what everyone says, and what I also say, is the first 4. The first 4 are just incredible. Really amazing storytelling, and many people can't really grasp his voice. But if you're accepting, as I mentioned, you should be very accepting of new things and, you know, be very flexible with your tastes. If you're accepting and tolerant, his albums are really great. But, this band is especially good if you listen to them as, you read the lyrics. Read the lyrics for this band, because as I said, the storytelling, incredible. It is super good for concept albums, and it's just truly incredible. Here's for bands that I actually just personally don't like, but everybody loves them for some reason, and I personally don't get it, but you should check them out, because I've listened to them, they're fine, whatever. I personally never cared for them. A band very similar to Iron Maiden is Saxon. Saxon's really good. But I really don't know why. I don't know why they're good. In fact, I don't really care for them. But Wheels of Steel is apparently a really good album that everybody loves, so check that one out. I think it's okay. Another band that I just don't care for, but other people tell me it's really good, is Manowar. I just don't get it. Same with Accept. I just don't really care for them. They're just not my thing. I'm not going to criticize them and say they're bad. I just don't really like them. I think they're fine, but I never liked them. Restless and Wild and Balls to the Wall, those are the albums everybody tells me to listen to, and I've heard them. They're fine. Go listen to them. Whatever. Since we're talking about traditional metal today, and those are basically the best of traditional metal, I'm gonna cover glam and hair metal now. Now, I know what you're thinking, glam and hair aren't traditional. And I'm like, yeah, they aren't. But they were in the same era of coming out, and they sound semi-similar. In terms of how hard they are and stuff like that. I don't like either of these genres. So don't ask for them, ever. Well, okay, I do think that some hair metal is okay, and when I use the italics in my script, I really mean it. Like, that emphasis is strong. I do like some hair metal. Motley Crue is pretty okay. I like some of their songs. Whitesnake's alright, I guess. Wasp sucks ass. I don't care what you think. I think Wasp is shit. Glam is dumb, and I can't stand Kiss. I really can't. I just do not like glam metal. I'm pretty sure I got all the necessary bands out of the way, so I will list the bands in which order you should listen. Of course, you can listen to whatever, whenever, but a quick recap, and most of these will be in chronological order of the band's releases and overall how it goes and how hard it is. That's primarily how I'm ordering them, is how hard they are, but it also coincidentally goes with the releases of the album. So as far as hardness goes, Diamond Head reaches a 10 on the hardness scale.
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
Okay, so let's do this recap. Blue Oyster Cult, UFO, Deep Purple, Aussie era Black Sabbath, Rainbow, 70s Judas Priest, Motley Crue, if you really want to listen to Motley Crue, Diamond Head, Ozzy Osbourne, Dio era Black Sabbath, Dio, Saxon, Manowar, Accept, Judas Priest from the 80s to 90s, and then finally Iron Maiden, Merciful Fate, and King Diamond. Most of these bands are pre-1983, and 1983 is the year of thrash revolution, which, of course, I will talk about in the next video, part 3, thrash metal. And we will be starting with one of my favorites